In a recent video, I mentioned that I just returned from a long trekking trip through a lot of the country of Armenia. I had a great time, but in order to prepare for the trek, I spent a lot of time thinking about what to take and what not to take, and generally what to do in order to have a great trekking experience. So I do have some recommendations for you if you are thinking about going on a trek sometime in the future, maybe in the United States or somewhere overseas. I do believe these recommendations can help you to have a great trekking time, and I think these will help you to prepare. Okay, so my first recommendation is to test out and break in your shoes. Now, this might sound boring, but it's really important to think about. So these are the trekking shoes that I took with me to Armenia. These are Merrell's. I really like Merrell's. I've used them for a long time. I do have a couple of older pairs of Merrell's, and I was thinking about using one of those for my trek, but I realized that they just didn't quite fit. They were just a little bit too big, so I decided to buy some new ones, and I'm really glad I did. These feel really good. They fit well. So when I got them, tested them out inside to make sure they fit. And once I knew they fit and were comfortable, I decided to break them in. So I wore them every day. I wore them to work to make sure they were nice and flexible for my trek. So this is important because when you go on a long trek, when you have a big, heavy backpack on, any shoe problems get magnified. They become worse. And shoe problems cause foot problems, and foot problems are trekking enders. So you definitely want to make sure that you have the right shoes and that you have broken them in before your trek. Okay, also in regard to shoes, if you are flying, wear them on the plane ride to your destination. This is really important advice. I got this advice from an older gentleman who I used to work with. He is a world traveler. He's done a ton of hiking and mountain climbing all over the world. When he found out I was going on this trek to Armenia, he told me, you can lose anything in terms of your hiking gear, but you can't lose your shoes. So if you don't want to lose your shoes, wear them in the airplane and wear them to your trekking location. You know what? I did this and I didn't lose my shoes. So I definitely recommend this to you. Wear them to your trekking location and guarantee that you won't lose them. Okay, set up your tent before your trip. So here is my tent in the compression bag. This is how I got it. And then this is my tent set up in my backyard. So I set up my tent in my backyard before my trek. This is really important. I recommend this. I actually recommend setting up your tent 2 or 3 times. The idea is you want to get really comfortable setting up your tent. You want to get quick at it. You want to get efficient and effective at setting up your tent. Why? Well, when you are on a long trek, most likely when you get to your camping location, you are going to be exhausted. And it might even be dark, and it might even be raining. So the quicker you can set up your tent, the better. If you are exhausted when you get to your camping location, it's dark and rainy, and you don't know how to set up your tent, you've never done it before, that might be a disaster. At the very least, you might get really wet. So it really pays to understand how to set up your tent quickly, and the way you can guarantee this is if you set it up a few times before your trek. Okay, prepare your legs and feet for your trek. This is super important. So for me, about a month before my trek, I started seriously hiking every day, every evening. So these don't have to be long hikes. I just did 15, 20-minute hikes in my neighborhood. I walked up and down a hill. I wanted to steel my legs. I wanted to make sure I was fit as could be for my trek. And this turned out really good. So maybe you are super in shape. Maybe you do rigorous exercising every day, so you don't have to worry about this. Maybe you are not as in shape as you would like to be, and so maybe you need to give yourself more than a month. The idea is you just need to get as in shape as possible. When I went on my trek after about a month of these daily short hikes, I was doing pretty good. I didn't have any foot issues or leg issues, and I was overall in enough shape to do some rigorous hiking. Now, a lot of that has to do with the shoes and having enough water and the right kind of food and energy and minerals, but a lot of this is being in shape. So I would also recommend, I think I mentioned this, I was on a hill, walking up and down a hill. So find a hill that can really help you get in shape. And also start wearing your backpack. I would say after the first week or two, wear your backpack and start putting weight in the backpack. Start putting your equipment in. Don't do this all at first. Don't fill it to the peak first. You want to make sure that you are slowly but surely getting in shape. But start to put weight in it and ultimately get to the point where you are carrying everything in your backpack that you are planning to take with you on your trek. This will prepare you for your trip, or at least help you to prepare as much as possible. Again, when your backpack is full, when you're on a long trek, you're going to walk different. It's going to be harder. So you want to simulate this as much as possible before your trek. You might find that you're taking too much stuff. You might find that you have too much weight, that you need to cut some stuff out. That's fine. That's all part of this experience here, this exercise. But the main idea is steel your legs. Try to get in shape, and you do that by trekking a little bit every day before your trip. Okay, identify climate, weather, and terrain. So the idea here is that you want to understand the temperature range of where you're going to be trekking. So I looked up online in terms of the hiking location I was going to be in, what the temperature range was going to be. So I found out it was going to be in the mid 30s degrees Celsius, or excuse me, Fahrenheit. This was it was going to be about 30 degrees Fahrenheit at night, typically where I was going to be trekking, and it would get up to around 60 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. So I knew what clothes to bring, and I also knew what kind of a sleeping bag to bring. Now, I got a sleeping bag rated for the 30s in terms of degrees Fahrenheit at night, but it was a little bit too bulky. I was a little bit concerned I wouldn't have enough room in my pack, and I started packing my pack, and I just felt like it was too big, so I decided to take a summery, smaller sleeping bag. It's a jungle pack. It was nice and small, but it was the wrong pack to take, and so I don't recommend that. I was too cold at night. So take a sleeping bag that is rated for the temperature you're going to be experiencing. Also, know the expected weather of the location. I knew there was probably going to be a lot of rain, so I took a high-quality rain jacket. I'm very glad I did this. It kept me dry and warm. And then know the trail difficulty. I asked about the difficulty of the trails. The tour leader, the trekking leader, said it was going to be moderate difficulty in terms of trails in general. So this affects the type of shoes that you bring. If the trails are easy and flat, and if there aren't really any rocks, you could probably get away with wearing running shoes or walking shoes on your trek. But I would still recommend some nice, high-quality trekking shoes. But you get the idea. The difficulty of the trails are going to influence or impact the type of shoes that you take. Okay, make sure you have what you need. So the idea here is that you need to ask for a gear list. If you're going on a trek and if there is a trekking leader, ask that leader for a list of things that he or she recommends that you take. Now, whether or not this is possible, maybe you are planning the trek with your family, you need to think through what you are going to take and what you're going to need. I would write these items down. I would either add them to the gear list you're given or create your own gear list, and then start packing the items and checking them off the list. And as you get closer to the trek, triple check your list to make sure that you are taking everything that you need. And then I would say that you should consider running your list by someone you trust, maybe a parent or somebody who has a lot of trekking experience. Ask that person if you are taking what you should be taking, if you're taking too much, or if there's something else that you should take that you're not taking. Very important. Okay, know your first aid kit. So this is my first aid kit, the one I took with me on the trek. I bought it for this trip. I took everything out. I wanted to make sure that I understood what was in the first aid kit so that I wasn't just guessing, or so that if something happened, I knew what I had and that I could use it quickly. Also, I would say that you should know the basics of first aid. Typically, first aid kits, or at least in this case, there was a first aid kit manual. So I would read that manual. You don't have to be a professional at first aid or certified in first aid, but I think you should know the basics. If you get injured or if you have a scrape or a cut or if somebody else gets hurt, you want to know the basics. And the more you know, the better. You might even be able to really help someone, maybe even save someone's life in the future. Okay, if you get lost, be able to survive at least 3 days in the woods. I think this is the bare minimum. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you are lost in the woods or if you actually just decide to spend more time in the wilderness, you're going to need some supplies. So this means having a water filtration system. I had 2 water filter bottles, high quality bottles. I also had a secondary water filtration system just in case. So this would have lasted me months, maybe even years. You want to have at least 3 days of food, maybe even more. You want to have shelter, so this means a tent or a tarp. You want to have a fire starter, probably a secondary system as well. And you want to have some sort of long-distance communication tool. So this means a cell phone, but I think you also need more than this because you might be somewhere where you don't have online access or phone access, phone connectivity. So it's important to have a secondary communication tool. So this could be a reflector, a piece of metal, or a mirror where you can reflect the sun and get somebody's attention a long way away if you're in trouble. Or this could be a whistle or a flare system or satellite phone. You get the idea. You need to have at least a couple of different tools to communicate long distance if you are lost or in trouble. Okay, get medical insurance and read the policy before your trek. Really important. If you get hurt on your trek, you want to make sure that you have medical insurance so that you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. So maybe you're overseas and you need to go to the hospital or you need to get medevaced out of a place. That can cost a lot of money. And so you want to make sure that your medical insurance covers it. If you live in the United States and you have United States medical-based insurance, there's a good chance it's not going to work overseas. So you need to read your policy and you need to make sure that your medical insurance covers where you're going for your trek. I bought some international medical insurance. It wasn't too expensive for Armenia, and I wanted to have that just in case. Again, if I got injured or had to get medevaced out, I didn't want to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. So I just spent a few hundred on medical insurance just in case. So I would print out the policy, I would understand the policy, and I would take it with you. Kind of annoying, but really important. You want to have this if you need it. Okay, bring a day pack for short trips. Really important here. So I took a big heavy pack with probably 40 pounds or so of equipment. There were times when I got an Airbnb or a hotel with the group. You might be in a situation where that happens, or you are in a situation where you have a base camp. So maybe you don't need to take your big heavy pack on a shorter hike, but it's important to have a day pack so that you can take some critical things with you, like your water, a phone, wallet, your medical insurance, a multi-tool, fire starter, just basic important things that you want to have with you wherever you go. But this can help you if you don't want to have to take your big pack with you in places where you can leave it somewhere like in a hotel. Okay, practice packing your backpack. Really important for several reasons. So before my trip, I practiced packing my backpack. I want to make sure that everything fit. I wanted to make sure that I knew how to pack things efficiently and effectively. I wanted to make sure that I knew where I was going to store things. I ended up keeping like things together in plastic bags, in Ziploc bags. So I put toiletries together. So this exercise of practicing packing my bag before my trip forced me to think through where I was going to put things, how I was going to organize them. I also thought through where to put things that I would need to access a lot. So I got these packs, small packs, and I put them on the side of my belt strap, my waist strap here. And I could put things in here that I would need to access a lot so that I wouldn't have to take off the backpack and dump everything out. So really important to pack your backpack a few times to force yourself to think through if you have what you need or if you're taking too much, and to help you organize everything right. And this will also help you to start packing your backpack more quickly so that when you're on your trek, it doesn't take you forever. Okay, that's pretty much it. I want to end by saying preparation makes for a nice trip. So in other words, the more you prepare, the more likely your trip is going to go well. It's no guarantee. But if you don't really prepare, if you don't really think through things, there's a good chance you might forget something that would have made your trip a lot better. So it's important to prepare and to give yourself time to prepare for a long trek. It will make your trip a lot better. Okay, thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.